Hello and welcome to Paranormal United States. This is episode 35. This is Ohio.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to doing this one. This is Ohio,
Yes.
and I'm going to be talking about the Moonville Tunnel in Ohio. So, the small mining town of Moonville was established in the Brown Township in the southern-eastern area of Ohio, and it was built to accommodate the expanding Marietta and Cincinnati Railroad. So, it's a typical small mining community. There's hundreds of them, weren't there, at the time, back in the 19th century. Interestingly, although the brick tunnel is only 50 yards, and this picture saw how it was back in the day.
Okay, yeah.
So it's only 50 yards long. It's the only way in or out of the town. It's through the tunnel. That's sort of how sort of built it was, just for the railroad, pretty much this little community. It scours through one of the hills, and there's also two trestles over the nearby Raccoon Creek. Raccoon Creek, by the way, is the longest creek in the world.
Oh, okay.
And it's 99, officially it's 99 miles long. Because a creek, 99, because a creek is defined as being less than 100 miles. Once it's 100 miles long, it's a river. So officially, it is actually over 100 miles, but because of all the red tape, it's a creek. It's 99 miles. Let's just keep it a creek. So, like I say, this is the only way in and out of the little town, this tunnel. But there's a flaw with the way that the tunnel was built. When they were constructing it, it's too narrow for pedestrians to pass at the same time as a train.
Oh, I can see where we're going.
So it made it a very dangerous area to walk. So if you're on the trestles over in the tunnel and you were caught on the tracks as the train was approaching, you had two choices. Jump to an almost certain death into the creek below, or be hit by the train for certain death. So they're pretty much the two choices. This is one of the trestles.
Okay, yeah.
Over the creek. So you walk on there trying to get out of town, and a train's coming, you're pretty much screwed. So this resulted in over 21 recorded deaths on only the tracks. The most recent being in 1986, when a 10-year-old girl was hit by a train passing over the trestle.
That's quite recent.
That was literally only like a year or two before they actually shut it down and ripped all the tracks up. It wasn't used very often, obviously, in more recent years.
Yeah.
And wasn't many trains not passing through. I think the last freight train was probably early 80s, and then just the odd train came by. And then 1988, I think it was, when it was just abandoned and ripped all the tracks up. Railroad workers called the railway line the most lonesome and desolate. And they hated the area because it was isolated and trains seemed to show up without warning. Moonville itself is now a ghost town, with nothing remaining except for the tunnel, a few bridge foundations, a cemetery, and the ghosts. Many visitors and tourists to the area reported seeing the ghosts as former railroad workers killed by train accidents, still waving their light, and there are a few in particular who are regularly seen or experienced in the tunnel. One of these is the engineer. The ghost of Theodore Lawhead, an engineer for the Marietta and Cincinnati Railroad Company, began to haunt the tracks after his train collided head-on with an oncoming train in the 1860s. Visitors are seeing a ghostly figure holding a lantern while walking alongside the track and through the tunnel. A group of youths in 1979, being a bit rowdy, been to the local bar, they're walking back from the local pub. And as they got near to the tunnel, they spotted the light following them. Thinking it was a sheriff, like maybe one of the residents had called him because they're being noisy. Thought it's the sheriff coming after him. Two of the group went back, including the driver, who's the only sober one. But they go back and speak to him and explain the situation, while the others carried on walking to the car. As these two got close to the light, they realised it was actually a lantern rather than like a flashlight, what they thought. And as they got closer, they noticed it was glowing, but not like a real light. And then they noticed that nobody's actually holding the lantern. It was just swinging back and forth in midair. The group that are walking back to the car suddenly hear the two mates running past them. And they ask them, what's happening? And they're like, there's a ghost. Let's just go. Let's get back to the car. Let's get out of here. So it panicked, yeah. And that was one of the sober ones. It wasn't. The rest were drunk, but the driver was sober, and he's one that saw it. Another ghost is the Lavender Lady. Visitors to the Moonville Tunnel have seen thin, elderly women walking alongside the trail. Shortly after, she disappears, and the scent of lavender fills the air. It's believed to be Mary Shea, an elderly member of the community who was out walking on the tracks, didn't hear an approaching train because she's a bit old, not the best hearing, and she was killed on the tracks at the far end of the tunnel. It's her lavender perfume that you can smell when her spirit returns, walking amongst the tunnel and the trestles. Another ghost is the bully. The bully is believed to be the ghost of Baldy Keaton, a resident of Moonville. The legend says that Baldy was a man that liked to fight when he got drunk. And one of his tactics was to bear hug his opponent, usually somebody smaller and weaker than himself, hence the name Bully. One day, he was at the local saloon when he decided to start a fight, but a group of men had enough and they kicked him out. Later, he was found dead on the tracks by the Moonville Tunnel. Many believe it was these men that killed him, or maybe someone else had enough and seen to him, but nobody knows how he actually died. The legend now says that the ghost of Baldy Keaton stands above the tunnel and stares at approaching visitors. He sometimes throws pebbles as they're walking by. The legend of the bully was also told by young mothers to their children and used it to tell their children not to stay out at night or else the bully would get them. As mentioned, Moonville is now abandoned and the tunnel and railroads are now more of a tourist attraction with hiking and biking routes that include it. After the railroad took its final train in 1988, and although there's a Halloween and ghost-themed festival known as Midnight at Moonville every year, which takes place on the old railroad bed and in the tunnel, which is pretty apt. But yeah, it's mainly a tourist attraction now. It's very, very spooky. You can see from the pictures.
Yeah, I can imagine when that's a bit dark and it looks like some kind of a horror film, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you imagine you see one of the trestles over the creek into the tunnel. Like I said, this is the only way in and out of town.
That's mad.
So if trains come in, you're screwed. Yeah.
Yeah, it does look quite creepy. There's like some tunnels and caves in the UK that look very similar to that, and I think they're all haunted as well.
I think
I can imagine.
A lot of the motorway underpasses are a bit similar.
Yeah, yeah.
Like tunnels under the motorways and stuff, and I'd say there's dark and stone, and it's quite creepy when you're in there.
Yeah, I can imagine, just due to the health and safety being non-existent back in the day, that several workers probably did lose their lives, I expect. Just yeah, nasty. But yeah, that'd be quite a cool place to visit, especially if the whole place is abandoned and like a ghost town.
The whole town is a proper ghost town now, nothing left, and just the railroad tunnel and the trestles left.
I think it's probably easier to sort of discount paranormal stuff if there's like a town or something active around there, but when it's a ghost town, I think seeing stuff is probably a bit more.
Yeah, and there's quite a few things that get seen. All these different ghosts as well. That's
so the light, sort of disembodied light. That's pretty scary. That is pretty scary.
I know there's one story of a guy. Again, it was a worker, and I think he got obviously a lot of the workers would drink while they're working as well back in the days. He had a bit too much to drink. He just jumped in a boxcar to save time rather than walking.
Yeah.
As he was going along, he just stuck his head out and ended up getting decapitated. As he trying to save a bit of time. And there was another worker, again, was a bit drunk and decided to fall asleep on the tracks.
No, you do.
he was hit by a train and killed. So yeah, like I say, quite a lot of deaths from against stupidity as well as obviously just lack of health and safety as well.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah. Nightmare.
So that was Paranormal United States, episode 35, Ohio, and the Moonville Tunnel.